Won't you pray with us? May the words of our mouths and the meditation of all our hearts bring us closer to one another and all that is sacred. Amen. Arnold Lobel wrote Frog and Toad Are Friends when Robin and I were small children in the 1970s, and they were special books to both of us. The stories are about an unlikely friendship between a frog and a toad. Toad is rather anxious and defeatist, and Frog almost always patient and positive. There's usually no explicit moral to the stories besides expressing the simple joy of shared companionship. They sat there feeling happy together, is how the story of the letter ends. Lobel once said of his own stories that love can be its own reward. When Robin and I were trying to find stories about friendship across species, Frog and Toad was the first thing we thought of. Two interspecies friends living life together, happy for the friendship of one another. No other moral than this: love can be its own reward. We celebrate the blessing of the animals this day simply to declare these two truths. Our animal companions' love is its own reward, and creation is worth celebrating because God declared it good. So our simple intention today is to honor all creatures of the earth and sky as belonging to and as blessed by our God who made them. At this time of year, many churches have a Blessing of the Animals service. This tradition is rooted in the remembrance of St. Francis of Assisi, who lived at the end of the 12th century and whose feast day is October 4th. St. Francis was known for his love of animals, and he was the patron saint of animals and the environment. But it wasn't only the Catholics who said that God's love was big enough for animals too. The Protestants later got on board. Martin Luther himself was said to have remarked, "Be comforted, little dog. Thou too in the resurrection shall have a tail of gold." And Abraham Lincoln said, "I care not for a man's religion whose dog and cat are not the better for it." I think about my own experiences with animals, those I have cared for as pets or farm animals, those I have dug up in tidal pools while playing at the shore, those I watched from afar in the woods, or even the wild ones on the Discovery Channel. I've learned so many important lessons from the creatures in my life. My family has always had pets, always gray striped tigers, cats, the ones just like Daniel's striped tiger, because we all loved Daniel's striped tiger. To this day, I have a soft gray tabby who sleeps in my arms at night, puts his chin under my chin, and drools on my arm. And I don't really mind, even though it's damp. I have another gray tabby who came to me last year, starving and weighing only 3 pounds. When I first saw her, she could only totter along and she couldn't leap, and I could put my thumb to my finger like this around her waist. She was so teeny tiny. Yet before she ate her first meal, which I put down in front of her, she got into my lap and she put her nose up to my chin and she pressed it forward, you know how cats do, to say thank you. Near death's door, she showed me how grateful she was before touching a mouthful of food. Now I always say thank you before I eat anything. If a cat would do that, why wouldn't I? Do I feel blessed by the creatures in my life? Oh, yes. Do they teach me what I still need to learn? Definitely. Maybe it's true for you as well.
I'm really excited because today my niece dog is here getting blessed. As most of you know, I don't have any animals in my house, so the closest I have is Sally, my niece dog. Animals teach us what we still need to learn because they teach us new ways to love. Our animal companion's devotion to us is often steadfast and with no strings attached. They do not require years of family therapy with us to work through old grudges. They do not start fights at the Thanksgiving table over politics. They love us wordlessly through the power of touch, nearness, gentleness, and eye contact, right? In their animalness, they bring out the depths of our humanity. Poet Rod McEwen writes, "Nobody owned me but a cat named Sloopy. Looking back, perhaps she's been the only human thing that ever gave love back to me." Animals also teach us about the brevity and fragility and sanctity of all life. One of the most traumatic losses we experience in our lifetime is our pet companions dying, isn't that right? We can still feel their weight in our laps like a missing limb long after they are gone. They remind us that loving deeply is always accompanied with grieving deeply. The average lifespan of a dog is something like 10 to 15 years. I have heard poets say that we grieve our dog's death so acutely that the fact that they are only our companions for a brief time is a kindness of nature, right? Because if they live twice as long, our grief may be doubled, and that would be unbearable. Last year, my friend Jake wrote a little reflection comparing his longtime rambling companion, Daisy Dog, to God. The reflection was called "Singing Out for Love's Return." And Jake talked about the time he lost Daisy in the woods and had to sing out her name like a fool until she finally came ambling back, very pleased with herself. He said sometimes our relationship with God is like that too. When we are lost in the woods of our suffering, we have to sing out for love's return. In March, Jake wrote this: "Daisy grew up with our kids until her muzzle was gray and was the constant presence of pure love in our house. Tonight, after a good, long life, she passed away, her body too sick to get better. We will miss her a lot. I'll think of her running through the woods, happy and free." So many of you have lost beloved animal friends over the years that I have known you, the constant presence of pure love in your households. For many of you, your animal companions are your purest reminder of God's presence, and you are still in the woods, singing out for love's return. You have grieved these losses bitterly and often in silence because too often you have minimized your grief. Too often you have apologized, saying it is trivial compared to the real problems and the suffering of the world. So today, I just want to honor your grief. Today, I just want to tell you that love is its own reward. Today, I want you to know that sitting there, being happy together, is an end unto itself. What we love deeply becomes a part of us. Beloveds, we worship a God who created the earth and all her creatures and called it good. So today, as we worship in chorus with our church family's animal companions, let us remember to touch everything in creation with the pure intention of blessing it. Love is its own reward. Amen.